Hi, my name is Helga Dís Ísfold Sigurðardóttir and I'm here to tell you briefly about digital game-based learning and 3 videos based on my PhD dissertation, Concern, Creativity and Compliance, the phenomenon of digital game-based learning and Norwegian education. Let's start with the term digital game-based learning, also sometimes referred to as DGBL. The term refers to learning that is in one way or another aided or facilitated by digital games. This may take place in traditional educational settings, but also just about anywhere else, at home, at work, on the playground, while commuting, and so on. Digital game-based learning and various gamification approaches are increasingly used in relation to training work skills in different industries, in various kinds of training programs, workplace learning courses, workshops, seminars for marketing, and so on. In my dissertation, I focused on digital game-based learning in relation to traditional education and school settings. Nowadays, the debate about digital game-based learning is no longer centered around whether or not this approach is an effective way to learn, as abundant previous research has already demonstrated that digital games are a tremendously powerful learning tool. The current debates are more focused on how best to implement and apply digital games in a learning setting to make the most of the great potential of game-based learning. My contribution to digital game-based learning research consists of 3 different studies that each reflects a different viewpoint, that of media, that of teachers, and that of pupils. In the coming weeks, I will be publishing videos that focus on each of these 3 studies. In the first one, I focus on media, or, to be more precise, how do digital games in a learning context appear in printed news media. To find out, I examined games-related articles from 2 different time periods with a 10-year interval. I found out that while digital games for leisure purposes are often presented as something inherently bad for the players, digital games are presented as a bright ray of hope when placed in an educational context, even the very same games that are considered bad for you when you play them for leisure. As soon as they're placed in the context of education, they are praised as a great tool to train cooperation, as exceptionally culturally and socially benevolent, and so on. In the second video, I turn the spotlight towards teachers. How do they envision, view, and plan digital game-based learning? I co-wrote this paper with my supervisor, Professor Knut Holtan Sørensen. Our empirical data was reflective notes written by teachers and teacher students at the end of a university course about digital game-based learning. The teachers acknowledged the great learning potential of digital games at the same time as identifying several obstacles, such as prejudice and technical challenges. It turned out that in spite of some dissimilarities between the teachers' views, their overall visions formed what we call a shared socio-technical imaginary, that is, a collectively held vision of their future use of digital game-based learning. The third video presents the point of view of pupils. How do they experience digital game-based learning? I talked to a total of 64 pupils from 4 different schools in 3 Norwegian towns in small focus groups. The pupils were 8 to 18 years old. They had experienced both traditional learning games and leisure games in their schools. Although some expressed some critical views, the general tone was one of appreciation. They were well aware of many of the commonly discussed components of digital game-based learning, such as improved concentration and visualization, meaningful learning experiences, the motivating factor, and games offering a welcomed break from other teaching methods, to name some. The pupils were strongly engaged in digital game-based learning and turned out to be well informed of what digital game-based learning is all about. This video series is my attempt to make academic research easily available to the public and, hopefully, to initiate some discussion about digital games in a learning context.